human beings. This is Narada Muni and Yudhishthira Maharaj having a conversation, and we are now on to text 76. Sa va ayam brahma mahad vimigraya. Sava ayam brahma mahad vimrigya. Kaivalya nirvana sukhanubhuti. Kaivalya nirvana sukhanubhuti. Priya surid va kalo matulaya. Priya surid va kalo matulaya. Atmahanyo vidi krid gurus cha. Atmarahanyo vidi krid gurus cha. Savai ayam brahma mahad vimirgya. Kaivalya nirvana sukhanubhuti. Priya suridva kalo matulaya. Atma haniyo vidikrid guruscha. Savai ayam brahma mahad vimigraya. Kaivalya nirvana sukhanubhuti. Priya suhridva sakalo matulaya. Atmahaniyo vidikrid guruscha. Savayam brahma mahad vimigra. Kaivalya nirvana sukhanubhuti. Priya suridva kalo matulaya. Atmahaniyo vidikrid guruscha. Haribo. Savayam brahma mahad vimigya. Sukhanubhuti. Priya suridva kalo matulaya. Atmahaniyo vidikrid guruscha. Mahad vimigra. Kaivalya nirvana sukhanubhuti. Priya suridva kalo matulaya. Atmahaniyo vidikrid guruscha. Saha, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Va, either. Ayam Krishna. Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. Mahadvimigya, sought by great, great saintly persons, devotees of Krishna. Kaivalya nirvana, sukha, of liberation and transcendental bliss. Anubhuti, for the realization. Priya, very dear. Surit, the well-wisher. Va, of all of you Pandavas. Kalu, famous as Matuleya, the son of your maternal uncle. Atma, heart and soul. Ahaniya, the most worshipful personality. Vidikrit, giving direction. Guru, your spiritual master. Cha, and. Translation: how wonderful it is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Parabrahman Krishna, who is sought by great sages for the sake of liberation and transcendental bliss, is acting as your best well-wisher, your friend, your cousin, your heart and soul, your worshipful director, and your spiritual master. Responsive, please. How wonderful it is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Parabrahman, Krishna, who is sought by the great sages for the sake of liberation and transcendental bliss, is acting as your best well-wisher, your friend, your cousin, your heart and soul, your worshipful deity, and your spiritual master. Haribol. Haribol. So it says here in the translation, maternal uncle. So who is it referring to? Who is the brother of Kunti? Who is the brother of Kunti? Duryodhana. The father is the father of Krishna, because he's been referred to as the maternal uncle. Who's the father of Krishna? Vasudeva. Vasudeva was the brother of Kunti. So it refers to him as cousin, maternal uncle. That's how they were closely linked, isn't it? Krishna was born from Vasudeva, Arjuna was born from Kunti. So they were like cousin brothers. That's why Arjuna he was finding it hard to kill everybody. In the Ramayana it was easy because all the enemies were on one side and all the goodies were on the other side. But in the Mahabharata it was very mixed up. You had the Yadu dynasty fighting against Krishna, because Krishna said to Duryodhana, well, he gave Arjuna the choice. He said, you can either have me, but I won't raise any weapons, or you can have the whole Yadu dynasty. And Duryodhana was praying that he wouldn't choose the Yadu dynasty. He goes, oh, I'll have you, Krishna. Duryodhana couldn't believe it. So you had all you were fighting against the army, who were all the good guys. Then you had Bhishmadev, he was a Mahajan. Dronacharya was a very elevated Brahmin. So everything was mixed up. All the good guys were on the other side, and they had to kill them as well. So that's why Arjuna was very upset and disturbed. And he would have preferred that they just killed him. It was less painful to Arjuna to be killed by them. What do you think, Chainanda? Than to kill them. So in the end, he did it because that's what Krishna said to Arjuna, well, it's not up to you whether you kill them or not. It's not that they're going to live if you decide not to fight. They're dead anyway. It's just whether you want to do it or not. But they're already dead. So you're not fighting. It's not going to stop them from being killed. Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Ki. Krishna can become the director and spiritual master of anyone who is serious about getting the mercy of Krishna. The Lord sends the spiritual master to train the devotee, and when the devotee is advanced, the Lord acts as the spiritual master within his heart. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipavagam tadame buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. Anyone know the translation? Was it there? Jayananda, do you know the translation? It's one of the, there's 4 seed verses. Anyone know the 4 seed verses of the Bhagavad Gita? 10:8, 10:9, 10:10, and 10:11. What's 10:8? Could be. No, all 4 seed verses are in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and they're considered like because the Gita has 6 chapters at the beginning and 6 chapters at the end, and they're compared to the shell of the Gita. And then the 6 chapters in the middle are considered the center, and they're the most confidential. And in the center of the center, in the 10th chapter, is the very essence. Tesham satata yuktanam. What's the translation for that, Jananda? Aham savasya prabhavo. And then 10:9, Tesham satata yuktanam. So first one is everything emanates from me. Second one, those who are constantly devoted, I give the understanding. Then Tesham evanakampartam. And then Tushanticha Ramanticha. My devotees take great pleasure in discussing about me. So 10:8, Aham Savasya. 10:9, Machita Makata Prana Bhojanta Parasparam. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Then 10:10, Tesham Satata Yuktanam, constantly devoted. And then 10:11, Tesham Evanukampatam. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So, seed verses, Krishna is saying, I'm everything is emanating from me. My pure devotees are always absorbed in me. If you're constantly devoted to me, then you'll come to me. And my special mercy is that I'll destroy the ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge. Jnana Deepena. Deepena is knowledge, is a lamp, shining lamp. And Jnana is knowledge, sorry. So Jnana, Deepena, the shining lamp of knowledge. So they say that those 4 verses are the first ones you should learn in Bhagavad Gita. And then there's 4 seed verses in the Bhagavatam as well. Aham evasya evam, great. It is I now that you are seeing. He was saying to Lord Brahma, he says it was also I that was there before the creation, and it will be me that still is here after the annihilation of everything. Aham seva, aham evaga. And then there's 3 other verses as well. These are all seed verses. Anyway, it's good to learn them. It's good to learn them, and it's even better to remember them, because sometimes you can learn them, and then a few years later you've forgotten them all again. What's the best way to learn a sloka? I say the best way to learn a sloka is you go through the first line, and then you go through the first line and the second line, then you go through the first line, second line, and the third line, and then you go through the first, second, third, and then the fourth. By that time you've definitely got the first 2 lines. Who's learning slokas here? Not a regular. Should be part of the sadhana, every day. Go through. And you have the ones that you've already learnt, you go through them so you don't forget them. Yeah, the interesting thing, if you get the meter right, Sanskrit is, Jayananda, could you just open that door so there doesn't overheat? Can you open the door? No. This, so it doesn't overheat. Just one, so you're not covering Vishnu's feet. No, the other one. Yeah. And Vishnu's feet are not being obscured by the door. We can take those doors off, really. No need for them. Just to stop the sound system from overheating. So the nature of Sanskrit is that, like the very first verse of the Bhagavatam is, "O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Master of all pervading personality, guarded of my respectful obeisances unto you. Only because of you do the material universes temporarily manifest by their actions of three modes of nature, pure factual, although they are unreal." It's quite a lot, and it's difficult to learn it. Like I missed a bit out there. But the Sanskrit, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadya Jayatan Vyadatarastite Svigat Swaratene Brahmahrida Adhikavya Mansurya Tesho Varimadam Yitamanyo Yatratusa Gomashadamna Svena Sadanarastaku Kamsachambaram Dhimahi. Because it's Sanskrit, it just flows. Well, you couldn't do that with oh, friends, Romans, countrymen, I come to praise Caesar and not praise him. It's just not got the same flow, you know. Sanskrit's got that amazing flow. So when you learn it, when you start to get a taste for learning the slokas, as you get older, your brain starts to decompose. And if you can be remembering things, it's a bit austere at first, but once you start getting into it, you realize this is me fighting against dementia now. And unless you do that, then you naturally will just vegetate. It's easy to just sit there and switch off and not really interact, because it takes less energy to interact. To interact takes energy. You're forced to have to stimulate the brain and think. When you're saying in the morning, Shakshad Haritwai Nasamastra Sastra, I hear other things being sung, then you can be thinking Shastra. In the Shastra it is saying Shakshad directly, that the spiritual master should be worshipped as Hari. So if you're meditating on these verses, then it stimulates the brain. But if you're just walking around like a zombie on the goldfish program, do you know the goldfish program? Goldfish program is you don't know the words and you're in the kirtan, so you just go. It's called the goldfish program. And if you ask the goldfish, what are you singing? Obviously it's not going to know, right? So we've got the morning program, which is like the essence, the essential essence of everything. It can't get chopped down any more than that. So at least we should know the morning program inside out, what every syllable means that we're saying on a regular basis. That's Prabhupada has given us that program. So in this conversation, it is being emphasized how fortunate Maharaj Yudhisthira was. Okay, sorry, I'll read them. Krishna can become the director and the spiritual master of anyone who is serious about getting the mercy of Krishna. The Lord sends the spiritual master to train a devotee, and when the devotee is advanced, the Lord acts as the spiritual master within his heart. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipavakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Krishna does not become the direct spiritual master unless one is fully trained by his representative spiritual master. Therefore, as we've already discussed, the Lord's representative spiritual master should not be considered an ordinary human being. The representative spiritual master never gives any false knowledge to his disciple, but only perfect knowledge. Thus he is the representative of Krishna. Krishna helps as the guru or spiritual master from within and from without. From without he helps the devotee as his representative, and from within he talks personally with the pure devotee and gives him instructions for which he may return home back to Godhead. Om Agyanatamaranda Shagananjana Shalakaya Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhastam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripasindubhyeva cha palitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. What do you think of that, Jananda Prabhu? No, I mean the purport. Did any part of the purport stand out to you? If you were to sum up the purport, what would you say? So Prabhupada says, if you become the director and the spiritual master of anyone, and if you're serious about getting the mercy of Krishna, then the Lord sends the spiritual master to train the devotee. So the first point Prabhupada's making is, if you're serious, a spiritual master will be sent to you. So you could say, if you have a spiritual master, then you must be serious. And then he says, when the devotee is trained, when he becomes advanced, then the Lord acts as the spiritual master within his heart. So, what's the distinction there, Jayananda? So it's showing here that there's a progression. First of all, if you're serious, you get a spiritual master. Then, if you're trained nicely and you make advancement, then you'll be directed by the spiritual master within your heart. So first of all, you need the spiritual master. Like some people, like Prana was saying yesterday, some people are saying, Krishna told me in my heart to go and sit down on the Vyasasam with Srila Prabhupada. So it is true that you would get some instructions like that, but only once you'd taken a spiritual master and been trained. Like, do we know right now what Krishna's telling us in our heart? What's Krishna telling you in your heart? Catch up on some sleep. So we don't know what Krishna's telling us in our heart. And the reason we don't know is because the mind is so loud, we can't hear Krishna. All we can hear is the mind and the senses raging. I need prasadam, I need to sleep, I'm tired, I need this, I need that. That's all we can hear, right? And behind all that commotion and noise, Krishna's sitting in the heart saying, why don't you just think of me and remember me? But we can't hear that. So then we have an external manifestation of Krishna in the form of the spiritual master. And he says, wake up, pay attention, interact, here's a question, think. That's the external spiritual master. And then when you can do it yourself, then you become a spiritual master. Then you can go and help others to do the same. That's the chain, that's what should be happening. That as you come up to the standard, then immediately you want to pull somebody else up to the standard, and they pull somebody else up to the standard. And so there's a succession. What we've seen here at Karuna Bhavan is a lot of devotees have come and they've done service, but then they've just gone away. So you can't have a succession unless they stay. Shishikonitai Mai Poshashiki Jai. And at the same time, Krishna is leaving it up to you. If you don't really want to do it, it'll happen anyway. I will spread this mission. My name will be heard in every town and village. That's already going to happen. Where I'm choosing pioneers to start everything in the beginning. Would you like to be one? If you don't want to be one, the books will still go out, the people will still get the holy name, the Rath Yatra will still take place, but it won't be you that's organizing it. So do you want to be a part of that, or do you not want to be a part of it? And then, so then you need a succession. So if you have devotees come and they work really hard and they're there for 10 years, 20 years, and then suddenly they just go, then you don't have anything to pass on. It just stops with that. Srila Prabhupada came, he started an international society, people were very excited, they came along, a lot of halava got eaten, and then everybody went back home to mummy, back to bedhead. You can go back to Godhead, or you can go back to bedhead. You can sleep, or you can stay alert. Utsahan nischayat, the very first thing Prabhupada says is enthusiasm. So an enthusiastic person isn't sleepy. An enthusiastic person is earnest. And the word earnest means keen as mustard. Keen as mustard. It's one of the definitions. There's a whole list of I looked up the word earnest just to see. Devoted, fervent, vehement, so many things. Just sit on the edge of a seat listening. That's an earnest person. And that's what we should be like in japa. If we're slouched in japa, we're leaning up against the wall, or we're trying to get comfortable, we're not earnest. We're like, oh, this is too much hassle, I don't really want to do this. Never going to break through into this connection with Krishna. And that's what Krishna wants. He wants us to become spiritual masters. And then there's a succession. Then one spiritual master trains another spiritual master, and then it goes on. Any questions or comments so far? Any earnest questions? Any questions about earnestness? Oh. Yep. Yeah. What's the image that it conjures up in your mind when you hear that someone's done something earnestly? What's the image that conjures up in the mind? What about a man on bended knee offering a ring to a woman? Yeah. Would you be my wife? Yeah, that's like very earnest, isn't it? Yeah. And that's what the disciple, he's supposed to be like that in front of the spiritual master. And we see more and more now, the spiritual masters. We saw the way Kripamaya Prabhu was up and he had one disciple, and the disciple was very irreverential in the way he was behaving with his spiritual master. So it's very inauspicious. And the other disciples of the spiritual masters, they should be saying to that one, you know, you need to be more respectful, and this is not going to be good for you. Because the spiritual master, he does offer to deliver the disciple, but only if the disciple is earnest. One time, some supposed disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the day after they got initiated, they went away. And one disciple went up to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and he said, oh, you know, two of your disciples just left the day after their initiation. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, they were never my disciples. You know? So you may have a different name, and you may put your banana in the fire, but the real test comes afterward. Are you able to maintain the etiquette and stay earnestly want to serve and please your spiritual master? And that's why we don't allow. Initially it was 6 months Srila Prabhupada would initiate. He was very merciful, and at that time it was very necessary to make devotees. But since then, there are some spiritual masters, they ask the disciple to wait 7 years, and if they're still there in 7 years, then they think about it. Because they're thinking, well, if they're still here in 7 years, then we know they're serious. What do you think of that, Jayananda Prabhu? 7 years. They call it the 7-year itch, right? After 7 years, you want to do something else. Yeah. Obviously, if the disciple's quite old, he may decide to shorten the distance. But as a person gets older, he kind of exhausts his options until eventually his only option really is devotional service. Whereas when you're younger, there's so many things you can do. You know, I could do devotional service. I could become a prime minister. I could become a world-class tennis player. I could make £5 million. But when you're older, there's not that many options left to you. As the time's running out, the only option is become a pure devotee or not become a pure devotee. So to those who are constantly devoted, and that constant devotion is also referred to. What's the verse in the Bhagavatam that refers to constant devotion? You know the Sanskrit? Savai pumsam paro dhammo yato bhaktir adhoksaja. And then what's the verse after that? The line after that? Ahetaki apatihata yatma suprasidati. You know the meaning of that, Jayananda? Ahetaki apatihata. Ahetaki apatihata means unmotivated and uninterrupted. Because if it's motivated, then it'll be interrupted. Because that's what motivations are. They interrupt. You have a motivation and you don't fulfill it, then it interrupts your devotional service. If it's unmotivated, then it can be uninterrupted, because it doesn't matter what the conditions or facilities are, you're just going to do it anyway. Whereas if there's a motivation and you don't get that fulfilled, then okay, forget devotional service. All the toys are coming out the pram. I'm upset. I was supposed to get a new pair of wellies, and I've not, and these ones have got a hole in, so forget it. I'm not in the garden today. I'll do some extra reading about how and the reading is about how you should be in the garden today. So Krishna can become the director and the spiritual master of anyone, but we need the spiritual master to become trained so that Krishna can become our spiritual master, and that means being constantly devoted. And because the spiritual master's qualification is he doesn't give any false knowledge, only perfect knowledge. So Sri Ramanuja in his introduction, actually it's a little book he put together about spontaneous devotional service. And so spontaneous devotional service only comes once you've gone through all the preliminary stages of getting free from unwanted things and anartha nivritti, and then you become elevated in your devotional service, and then the devotional service can become more flowing, more natural, raganuga. So that's what the spiritual master is training. So it may be that in the beginning, the spiritual masters, because Prabhupada wanted millions of spiritual masters, and there's not so many Uttama Adhikaris, the topmost devotees. So if everyone's going to be a spiritual master, then the qualification becomes not whether they're spontaneous or whether they have a taste or whether they know their swarup, which is the absolute highest, best standard. But because it's an emergency, you have what's called battlefield commission, where people that aren't really supposed to be generals are just given the stripes and told, okay, look, the enemy's over there, take the men and fight, you know. And so they get battlefield commission. So then Prabhupada, he lowers the standard for a spiritual master just to, okay, don't change anything, just repeat it as you've heard me say it, as you've heard it in the books, and everything will be fine if you do that. And Srila Prabhupada and Krishna will take care of everything else, even though we're not so elevated. And Shiva Ramanuja gives the example that if somebody gives you all the ingredients to make the cake, and the spiritual master, he's not made the cake himself, but he has all the ingredients, and he gives you the ingredients, then you can still make the cake. You just need all the ingredients. So as long as the spiritual master doesn't change, he gives you 35 grams of sugar, and 25 grams of butter, and 55 grams of flour. As long as it's all, then when you put it all together, you can make the cake. Even though he doesn't have a cake himself. So rather than saying, I'm not going to have a spiritual master because none of them are, Nitya Siddha Bhagavat, Mahabhagavats, they've just come down from the spiritual world. Then you don't go forward with that attitude, and then the movement doesn't get spread. So that's what we do in ISKCON. It's like they used to have a poster in India when the British were trying to get the Indians to join the army. It said, the uniform will tell you what to do. So once you put it on, you take on the post of spiritual master, the uniform will tell you what to do. And if you're genuinely doing it just because you want to spread Krishna consciousness and you want to see people get this, then everything will be fine. But if you start becoming intoxicated and thinking that you're something special, then you'll fall, which is what we've seen happen in my short stay in Krishna consciousness. In terms of the grand scheme of things, our lives are just tiny little blips, aren't they? Janan, do you have a question? No? The Ritviks and the Gaudiya Math. Yeah. Well, it's very easy what to do. Well, the first thing you should do, what's the first thing you should do, Jayananda Prabhu? If there's Gaudiya Math and Ritviks, what should you do? Good neighbors, good fences make good neighbors. So we can respect them, but we stay distant. But then philosophically, if we should be well equipped. Shuddhabhakti Chintamani is a really good book to philosophically equip you, because we are on the battlefield right now, and our way back to Godhead is strewn with mines. It's a minefield trying to go back. Unless you're very attentive and very learned, then there's every chance you'll be misled. So the Ritviks, they don't have Acharya, they only have GBC. They don't believe anybody can be a spiritual master but Prabhupada. That's what they believe. So Prabhupada, when he appointed the 11 gurus, he wanted them just to represent him. They weren't supposed to be spiritual masters themselves. Although practically every lecture you listen to, Prabhupada saying we should become spiritual masters. But what the problem with that is, you only have the GBC. And then you have Gaudiya Math. And the Gaudiya Math, they neglected Bhaktisiddhanta's instruction to form a GBC. So they only have Acharya. So if you go along the river Jalangi in Mayapur, you'll see these little temples, all little mats. And it's one Acharya in there, one Acharya in there, one Acharya in there, and one Acharya in there. So they have their Acharyas. And on the other side of the Jalangi, you'll see the Mayapur Chandradaya. It's massive. It can take 50,000 people at a time for Mangalarti. So if all those mats got together, that's what you would have. But because they only have Acharya and they don't have GBC, they all do their own thing. And if the Acharya goes away, that's the thing finished. There's no succession, unless he elects another Acharya. So what Prabhupada wanted in ISKCON was a combination. What was the combination, Jayananda? The combination. What's the combination? What have the Ritviks got and the Gaudiya Math got? What's the two different things that they both emphasize? Which one emphasizes Acharya? And so what do the Ritviks emphasize? And what else? See, you can't be listening because I've just said it like 30 seconds ago. So you have GBC. They say if you don't hear, then you won't be here. It's very important to hear. So the Ritviks have GBC, and the Gaudiya have Acharya. Prabhupada wanted in ISKCON that we have GBC and Acharya, because you can't have a whole group of people go wrong. I mean, they may make some mistake because they're a work in progress, but they'll get there eventually. And then if a spiritual master does go wrong, the GBC can step in and say, sorry, you can't initiate anymore. And then he can say to somebody else, but you can initiate. So you have that dynamic that's there. So if you only have Acharya, that's weak. And if you only have GBC, that's weak. Because if it's GBC, then nobody's the ultimate authority apart from Prabhupada. Whereas in ISKCON we have, our Guru Maharaj can tell us something, and we take it really seriously, just like Prabhupada was telling us it, and then we go ahead and we fervently and earnestly try to follow that instruction. So that's the ideal combination, Does that answer your question? Yeah. So it's Shuddhabhakti Chintamani. She goes through all the pitfalls that are there, what will distract people. And the thing that he emphasizes very much is, for us, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, our faith in Prabhupada and our enthusiasm to follow Prabhupada is our greatest treasure. And if somebody comes in and dilutes it and says, why have you got Nrsingadeva on the altar? Where does that come from? That's just a concoction. And, why are you singing Jai Radha Madhava? That's a very confidential. These are all different, because they're at odds with Prabhupada's mandates. So, institutionally, it's not a good idea to associate too closely with them, because they will undermine or even supplant Prabhupada and say, well, he came over and he was really lucky that things went the way they did. But if anyone had come, they would have done. Any Indian gentleman who's been brought up all his life, anyone could have done it. Really, it was just that Prabhupada was lucky. So this is, and then that will weaken your faith. Yeah. Whereas we take Srila Prabhupada as something very special, sent, everything he's saying was perfect. We just have to follow and have faith in him, So that's what we need to protect. We are Prabhupada Anugas. Yeah. 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 Everything.
And I think that once you understand that when you were saying about, like, if people can undermine you, they can only undermine you if your heart's not in the right place.
Yeah.
You know that it's like, people make excuses to do what they want to
That's
do,
it.
enjoy what they want to do, So they say, oh well, that's it, they want to wipe it out because they want to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And so they can add whatever they like into that.
Yeah.
They think, but if you're fixed and understanding that he is the Acharya for this age.
See, what Krishna will do is he doesn't want you to grudgingly stay away or grudgingly. If you're doing anything grudgingly, that is the worst thing for Krishna. It's like, well, look, if you don't really want to do it, Krishna's mood is, well, I don't need it. I'm doing you a favor. If it's all too much of a problem for you, if it's just a big shoulder shrug for you, and you can't really be bothered, I don't need it. I don't need that, So then Krishna gives you excuses. He says, well, do you want an excuse then? And then you can feel good about it. You can think, well, it's not my fault, My spiritual master left. You can't blame me. A lot of devotees were like that, and they didn't want to accept anybody after that. And they said, no, you can't tell me anything now. And so they thought they had a great excuse for not having to surrender. That things had broken down for them. Therefore, you can't blame me. They were the victims. So you can have two choices in life. You can be victim or you can be victor, but you can't be both. If you want to be the victor, then you can't be the victim. If you want to be the victim, then you can't be the victor. So as soon as because when we take up devotional service, we don't realize really what it is we're taking up. We just think, oh, this is going to be great. Loads of prashadam, Haribol, jumping around in a bedsheet. Can't wait for it. Fantastic shaved head. I love it. Great. Put the tilak on, Haribol, And then later on, it's like, oh, this is actually quite serious. I've got to give up all my material desires, and I've got to stay awake. I've got to pay attention. I've got to be into this. I've got to be enthusiastic. I can't be going around with a long face, dragging my feet and moaning and groaning. I've got to be utsahan. I've got to be there, I don't think I really want to do this anymore. there must be some excuse I can give, you know. Must be some way I can get out of it. And then Krishna's like, yeah, no problem. What do you want? Okay, let's make this arrangement for you. You got a hole in your welly, can't be expected to do gardening. You may as well just hop on the bus and go back to mum. ISKCON Govinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi Hari Bol.